Well, hello there. Undoubtedly, you've heard of a webinar. Indeed, you've probably been part of a webinar. You may have even hosted webinars. Today, I have with me Jon Schumacher of jonschumacher.com, and he is my go-to guy for webinars. Now, you know that I do a lot of webinars. I'm pretty good at webinars. He is my go-to guy, which is why I'm so delighted to have him as part of the summit. I could go on and on and on about his achievements, but he has helped literally hundreds of people across 300 industries generate tens of millions of dollars worth of revenue. And today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. There's a traditional webinar, there is an evergreen webinar, and then there's a different structure that some people call an application funnel. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Jon, how are you?
Doing well, James. Can you hear me loud and clear?
I can hear you loud and clear. Now, because you're the webinar guy, I see that you've got some pretty cool webinar slides. I'm guessing that you've used these in a webinar because it says type in the chat, which means that if you're playing along at home, watching a recording, say something out loud or write something down on a piece of paper whenever you have a thought or see a slide like that. I'm going to just hand straight over you, Jon, and let you do your thing.
Sounds good, James. Well, let's just go through some, this is a cheating presentation from a live webinar I've done, but it's going to be some good materials for everybody listening here during your summit. And so thanks for having me and welcome everybody. What I want to talk a little bit about today are really two things. The first thing I want to do is set up this discussion on basically an application funnel. So what is that? It's really just a series of events in your customer journey that's a little more automated. It's a little bit more of a automated way to attract clients and enroll them, warm them up prior to an initial sales call. So if you're looking for a more automated system or a more streamlined customer journey from taking someone from interested to paid client and have a system for doing that, we're going to be talking about that today. What I want to do is kick off first with a few distinctions for you as a B2B consultant and service professional, some things you should be aware of selling in today's information overload environment. And then I'm going to actually lift up the hood and show you the system so you have clarity on what that looks like so you can build this into your own business. So it's always good before you share any cool stuff to start with why it's cool. And so let's start with why it's cool first and why what I'm going to be sharing with you is important. And James, feel free to jump in with snarky comments or any other guesses as well. I'm sure that you will.
I wouldn't dare. I'll share my ideas and thoughts and maybe a sliver of wisdom where it makes sense.
Sliver of wisdom. So for everybody listening, I know we're not live right now, we're recording this, but I want to start off with this. The number one reason your customers buy more from you, buy more often and at higher prices. So I want you to, maybe James, you could think too as well here. What do you think is the number one reason your customers buy more often from you and at higher prices? What do you think?
Ideas swimming around my brain at the moment. Is it to do with frequency? How many touch points so they feel like they trust you more? Is it because you got in early so they're not price shopping?
Those are some good comments. I'm sure some people listening have some good ones as well. So the Challenger sale did some research, and I don't know if James, if you've looked at this research yet on selling. It's fascinating research. Thousands of sales transactions. They looked across just a multitude of industries, and they found that there were four main drivers to why customers buy more and buy at higher prices. The first is price. Of course, 9% of surveyed found that the price was a factor. They liked the deal. They felt like you gave them a great deal. Second was story. 19% of respondents said they bought more from the company and were in love with the brand based on their brand story and the impact that they make in the world. Now, number three is quality products. You would think this would be number one. Hey, we have a great product. We have a better widget. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. This is the number one reason why people buy more from us. But according to the research, that was not the case. 19% bought from you based on your quality product. By far the number one, drum roll, please. We feel like I'm on David Letterman here. Letterman's top 10 list. 53%, how you sell. How you sell, your sales process, your sales experience from initial interest to enrollment was the biggest determining factor for how much they bought, at what price points, and how much in love they were with your brand. And I've seen this flesh out for my own business too. I mean, think about it, right? It's, how you sell is extremely important because that's their experience with you before they give you money, right? So how you sell is extremely important. According to the research, the number one thing you can tweak, and particularly these days, how you sell virtually, right? I mean, there's not a lot of selling going on in person. That, of course, will shift over time. But even when offline selling comes back in vogue, why not add a virtual component to it, right? So the number one reason that your customers buy more from you and at higher price points was how you sell. That's the number one screw that you can turn to increase your business. So if it's not always what you sell, it's how you sell it that matters most. Some of us sell very similar things, right? But James, you have a unique way of selling. Other people on here have a unique way of selling. And according to the data and research, that's the number one factor to optimize and improve to grow your business.
It's even down to things like the way you structure your offer. So I've seen you can have two people with the same offer, and I'm talking about the very pointy end of the deal. And one person's got payment terms and the other one doesn't have payment terms. Same thing. That's once again how you sell.
Yes.
At every layer of the journey.
There's a lot to unpack about how you sell. And I like to say this, if I say it right here, it's kind of getting late here, or my brain's getting a little tired this time of day, but it's not what you sell, it's how you sell it. And people don't buy what you sell until they buy how you sell, right? So people are going to buy how you sell before they buy what you sell, right? And this is backed by some pretty extensive research here. And I've seen this played out. Just to James' point, there's a number of factors here, but just to set the stage, like this is the number one thing you should be focusing on in your business if you really want to grow and accelerate, particularly if you're selling, what other people are selling, right, James? You sell how to help people get clients in B2B, and it's like there's a whole bunch of folks doing that. What makes you different? Well, your personality and how you sell, right, is a big factor there. And obviously you got a good product, but that's sort of, a lot of people have good products too, right? So it's really a huge differentiating factor. So it's really not what you sell, it's how you sell it that's the biggest factor. And so the question would then be, how do you improve how you sell, right? And in order to answer that, we need to talk about the biggest challenge to making the sale today in our information overload, high, very risk adverse, low trust environments. What is that biggest challenge? So what do you think, James? What is the biggest challenge for you to make a sale today?
The biggest challenge that most people would say is getting someone's attention and then being able to hold.
Well, that's marketing. That's marketing.
Attention. Okay. All right. So the biggest challenge to making the sale.
In the sales process. Marketing is getting attention, right?
Yeah.
What about actually, once you got their attention and they're in your pipeline?
I'm just trying to think about all the things that people do badly. Usually what they do is they spend a lot of time preaching and pitching and selling rather than adding value or teaching or demonstrating value.
Okay. Those are all good things. Yeah. So Gartner did a big study on this, on sales, right? And found that the number one barrier to sales for you, buyer self-confidence. Buyer self-confidence. So not necessarily, and confidence that they're making the right decision, not only to pursue the plan they have in their minds by speaking to you, but that you're the company that they should be speaking with, right? They're making the right decisions, because, buyers are much further along in the journey than they've ever been with the internet and all the research, and they can know more about you than you do about them. Right. And so how do we create, so it really comes down to not only your own self-confidence as a seller, but how do you create self-confidence in the buyer, so that they themselves feel confident, that they feel great about pursuing your company and what you do. So it's a little bit like, everyone talks about sales skills and right? Like you got to get more confident, have a better delivery and all this kind of stuff. But according to the research done by Gartner, it's buyer self-confidence that is now the number one barrier to making the sale.
And it goes
So how do
all
we,
the way after they've even bought it. I mean, like there's another training bit in this summit where it's how to get someone to first value after they bought, because then after we buy, then we suffer from post-purchase dissonance and we're worried that we made the right decision. It goes all the way. So that's terrific. I'll shut up.
yeah. So we need to sell them on, so increasing buyer self-confidence. So how do we increase buyer self-confidence? Well, we want to build buyer self-confidence before our initial sales conversations. You know, that it needs to start before they get into our initial sales pipeline. So what happens before the initial sales conversation should do 90% of the selling for you. And so that's what I want to talk about here today a little bit is what I call a pre-sales funnel, or it could be called a pre-sales process. So this is some stuff that should happen before you speak to your prospect, whether you're doing a 15-minute call on the front end or a 60-minute or 45-minute strategy session or whatever you're doing with your prospects. Let's talk a little bit about some things that should happen prior to that time. Let me pull up my little pointer here. Cool. So basically we have 4 big chunks. So what I'm going to do is we have a traffic part here. Obviously we need to get people to view our stuff. I'm a big fan as the webinar guy of using what I call a pre-sales presentation to warm up the prospect and really to get them to understand who you are and who you help and how you help them. We want some kind of a filter system for you as the salesperson. So you're not just jumping on calls with random people or people that just aren't willing and able to really move forward with you in a timely manner. And then, of course, we have the initial sales conversation, whether you're doing 15-minute triage calls, 45-minute strategy sessions, whatever. What happens between the time they actually book a call with you and actually get on that call with you is a huge factor that you're likely not giving enough justice, so to speak. So I want to talk a little bit about a few things in this funnel here today. The first one is this pre-sales presentation. So I want to break down why having a concise, short, punchy presentation for your business is one of the best assets you can have in your customer journey. We're going to talk a little bit about this pre-sales funnel and sort of the pages. I'm going to screen share a few examples for you here. And then we'll share a few profitable use cases. So how do you get eyeballs and people to actually come view this presentation and go through your process in a way that warms them up and pre-sells them on you, your company, and your service. So we're going to be talking about those things. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about creating your pre-sales presentation. So what is that? What does that really mean? Well, it's really a short 15 to 25-minute presentation designed to pre-frame and pre-qualify viewers prior to your initial sales conversations, to actually view it before speaking to you. It's designed to shift your viewers' thinking and leads them towards your solution. And it provides a clear and compelling call to action to book a conversation with you or your sales team. So you could think of this as your company's best sales and marketing message in a short, punchy, concise presentation that you can record and deploy before your conversations, or you can use live inside of Zoom or some other mechanism like that.
I think so. I'm going to make one observation. It's interesting that you said 15 to 25 minutes. The big question I always get is how long should it be? You're at 15 to 20 minutes. One thing I do know is that TED Talks, the people at TED figured out that the 18 minutes is how long a TED Talk is, because then much longer than that, we start to lose our focus and our concentration. So 15 to 25 minutes is a nice window to get your message across, hold the information, then have your call to action.
And it can be even shorter than that. I've seen some of those too, but yeah, that's the point is that when you're in B2B, you're selling to people who have more money than time, right? And they're sophisticated buyers. You don't need a lot of BS, right, to get them to make a decision. If you can show them a high ROI proposition, that's a good use of time and money for them. And in a clear, concise, punchy message with a clear call to action that's compelling, you can do a lot of damage with that. So structuring this thing here. So basically, and I'll show you an example here of a screen share in a moment of what we do with our clients, but basically structuring your pre-sales presentation. There's a few things we want to pre-sell them on. One is we want to pre-sell them that you understand their present pains and desires, right? So you should be able to take a finger take your little finger out and point right to their present pains in that conversation. You'd be able to point right at it in a very objective, tangible way. You can do that in a way that they really resonate with. You're going to be taking them one step closer to working with you. You want to pre-sell them on you and your philosophy or your company's philosophy. People don't always buy what you do until they buy why you do it, right? There's a little saying goes, whoever says, Simon Sinek, I think, said that, right? So, we want to pre-sell them on you and your philosophy, and we want to pre-sell them on your plan for getting them results in a very high level way. So let me come and pull off here for a minute.
Key word here is the plan, the same way that John has, for example, already shown you a chart with 4 different points in it. That there is an example of a plan. You can say, I'm the best. You can tell your story. We're in love now. You can say, here are your headaches. Here's where I want to get you. And then people will say, how? And in the old days, people used to say, the margin is in the mystery. If I don't tell you how I do what I do, I can charge you more. These days, every mystery is available as what? A 15 to 25 minute pre-sale video. So you've got to show them how you're going to do what it is that you're going to do.
Yeah. You need to pre-sell them on how, and they need to think to themselves this, wow, I can see how this can help me. And I can see how this would help me.
And that buyer confidence that you talked about goes up.
And that's what we're doing. We're increasing the buyer's self-confidence prior to speaking to you, that they're making the right decision to pursue the plan they have or that you have, and then also pursue you as the company, right? So they're leaning into you during that initial call instead of you having to do the sales song and dance on that initial call and start the whole thing cold. I've seen this double or in some cases triple conversion rates for companies by beefing this up. But anyway, as far as we're looking at an example of the pre-sales presentation here. So basically, I'm not going to go through all the details here, but obviously, this is an example of what we use with our clients, the script. So basically, we help them craft a compelling hook. Like I'm working with a building product solutions company. Our hook for them, I believe, was like, why 6 of the top 10 building product solutions company use our client for their sampling and marketing needs, something like that, So coming up with a good hook can help you really get out there and really get people to want to watch it, right? And pre-frame it. We want to pre-sell them on their present pains, their current desires, pre-sell them on your company, using examples and things like that, case studies, pre-sell the plan, prove it works, and basically tell who it's for, and then have a compelling call to action to speak to you, to work with you. And you don't want to just say book a call. You want to make this a little more compelling. James, I know you're good at positioning diagnostics and things like that. You're not saying, hey, book a call with James. It's there's an actual tangible result.
B2B funnel mapping strategy session where over 45 minutes, we're going to tackle A, B, C, and D. So you can leave that call with A, B, with B, D, and whatever. Yeah.
Yep. So it needs to be a little more compelling for that. So that's kind of what it looks like. It's a short, punchy, direct copy. There's no sob story of you, when you're down on your luck or anything like this. If you're marketing to more sophisticated buyers, people tend to appreciate that, in my view, or they've appreciated that in me, at least, that I'm pretty much a straight shooter. It's about clarity. It's about being compelling. It's about hitting the right pain points and solving the right needs, and they'll take an action, right? They'll take an action. So that's really what that looks like. So the power of this is it can be used, again, live. You can use it like I'll use this sometimes in a one-to-one Zoom meeting at times. I'll take out parts of it or use as examples. You can use this presentation deck in small demos or small briefings. Like you can just invite, let's say 6 to 10 prospects to a Zoom meeting, do a short presentation, and then, answer a lot of questions and get to know people. It can be used recorded as well. You can literally record this as a video and deploy it prior to speaking with a prospect, so they know a bit about who you are and who you've helped and all those kind of things. Or it can be used in a webinar format to literally reach thousands of prospects around the world. So that's the presentation piece. I think every good company should have a good presentation. That, again, you could move mountains with this thing if you nail it. It can be literally your best sales and marketing asset. So let's talk about the pre-sales funnel. So some of the pieces around this, and this is where we'll get into the application funnel a little bit more. Now, don't freak out if you're watching this slide. This is not as complicated as it may look. James, I know you're freaking out a little bit.
I was thinking before when you were talking about the video, I was thinking about different ways and places to place it. So
yeah, yours probably looks like way crazy. What I'm going to share with you, because you're an advanced funnel guy, what I'm going to share with you here is just sort of the basic kind of yes flow, I guess you'd say, for the funnel, right? So basically, you have a presentation page here. Now, this could be either a live Zoom or whatever you're doing, or this could be a page on your website you're sending traffic to. I'll show you some case examples in a moment. But basically, the goal here is to host the presentation and then schedule a meeting, fill in a pre-sales filter, like basically what you would call a diagnostic, to complete the form, and then start the process of what I call Netflixing your prospects, right? So this will be sort of the missing piece for a lot of people who are doing these things, is really this piece here, is really this warm-up pre-framing piece prior to the sales call. So let me break this down a little bit further here and show you a screen example. Let me go ahead and come off my slide deck here. So basically, what this looks like is, in a recorded version, is you could have like a web page here. This could be behind an opt-in wall. This could be simply ungated. Like I just leave this ungated on my website. Like I literally have people who come to my website. They'll just, Google me or Google a keyword. They'll come to my page. They'll click on one of these buttons or somewhere on this page here, and they'll come to a page that looks like this. Very clear. Hey, do you want us to create or improve your webinar? And they're searching in Google for webinar coaches and webinar experts and all kinds of cool webinar stuff. And lo and behold, they find me. I have a short little presentation right here.
16 minutes and 52 seconds. Right in the sweet spot.
They then book a call right here. I'm using Schedule Once. You could use Calendly, or what's your tool? B2B-io. Yeah. Whatever floats your boat. You book a call here. This is really lagging because we're on Zoom. What we do then is redirect them to a questionnaire. Now, I've refined these questions over the years. I want to know a bit about where they've heard about me, what they're looking for help for, what their profit zones are, a little bit about their company and their assets, what success looks like. When are they looking to get started? Are they the decision maker? Are they going to be a good boy or girl and bring the decision maker to the call? Minimum price points. I basically just want to let them know, like, there's a minimum qualification to like talk, yes or no. At this stage in my career, I don't want to speak to folks who can't pay like a minimum level of payment to work together. So now, little word on this, like some industry clients, I've had to change this a bit. Like some people are, let's say, in the financial space, or there's other factors affecting their ability to gather this kind of information. You can soften, I call it softening the filter, or you can harden the filter, right? Like this is a pretty hard filter. It's like you basically like, tell me how much you're making. Are you able to pay at least these fees? I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. Like if they're filling this in and saying yes, and then they're going back on that, that's not cool on their part. So I'm looking at like, how do I, basically, this is a fairly hard filter. You can soften the filter a little bit depending on your niche. So you don't have to ask all these questions, but it's good to have some kind of financial qualifier, in there.
Yeah. So you got like one, which is how much money you're turning over or something. Like in some industries, you can just say something like, are you turning over, last month, did you turn over more than 30,000 or less than 30,000, or more than 15K or less than 50K? What was your monthly revenue? And they look at it and they're like, oh, I'm either above or below. And then you obviously make it a little bit higher than where you want them to be. So anyone that goes low, that's all right. That's another way of doing it as well.
Yeah.
It's almost like a yes or no, really.
And I find using like ranges with a button here works pretty good, instead of just making them type in the exact number. There's a lot of nuances, to this for people. It looks pretty simple, but there's actually quite a few nuances to this. So then they fill in the questionnaire, and it redirects to a page, what I call the pre-frame page. Now, there's also emails. I don't know how deep of a rabbit hole you want to get down on this stuff. I mean, I have retargeting ads from people that come before the call. I have emails and stuff that go out, those kind of things. I think you probably do SMS or something like this, right, as well, to give them content prior to the call, or something like that.
We have a whole thing on elevating anticipation.
Yeah.
So we book the call, and we have like a little alert that happens again in B2B Dash, something that you can't do auto-magically, but it gives you a nudge. It's just like a task, and it says, friend them on social media. So you go and like invite them to connect with you on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. There's all sorts of little things you can do before the meeting. But this, John, I believe, as you're about to say, is the most important.
Yeah. So this starts the process of what I call Netflixing your prospects, so what do people, so again, if we back up, what's the big challenge we're facing, right? We're facing, the research shows us that how we sell is the key, right? Like that's one of the biggest bolts we can turn to improve our business, and buyer self-confidence is the biggest hurdle, right? Okay. So someone is let's just use my example, come to Google, they could come from Google. They could come from an ad. They could come from a JV partner. They could come from whatever traffic source. For whatever reason, they decide, yeah, that sounds good. I'm going to book a call with John, and I'm going to fill in some information about John to give to John. They've taken a commitment, and they've raised their hand. They left the anonymity of the internet or wherever, and now they've actually one-to-one. They're one-to-oneing with your company, right? And so what's going on in their minds, right? Am I making the right decision? Are these guys going to ambush me? Are they the person I should be working with, or is it somebody else? Gosh, I hope this is the right decision. I really, we all have these fears, right? These fears of getting on a sales call. And so what do we want to do? Like, what do people want to do, right? They want to, if they're really a serious buyer, they're going to want to do some due diligence, right? They're going to want to like consume some materials. And so I've coined this term Netflixing, because basically what do you do when you're watching Netflix? You watch like 3 episodes in a row or whatever, right? You're binge watching, these shows in many cases. You can't wait to see the next one, that kind of thing. And so we want to be able to allow people to actually Netflix on your company's content, right? And your company's materials. And I found that this really has made a huge difference for me and for clients that we've helped either consult on or just build these systems for their companies, So basically it's a short little video, and then a little bit of like what to do before the call. So I have, materials down here for them to review. If they have a business partner, please attend, do your due diligence on me. Now, not everybody can do this, but I can literally tell people to put my name in Google and all this kind of stuff. And then I give them some content to consume, right? So case studies to consume before the talk. Another piece to give them is relevant authority content that they can consume. So this is a speech I gave at a marketing conference that a lot of my prospects will actually watch before the actual meeting with me, which very much aligns with what I'm selling them too. So, and I have emails that send people back to this content or build up to it. Retargeting, like I say, retargeting ads on Google. And I don't know how deep we want to get with this, but basically we want them to start from the time they book to like actually speaking to you, that we want them to start consuming your material, right? And your content before that call. Not everybody will. And those you can tell, are not your best buyers. If they show up on the call and they're like, well, yeah, I didn't really have time to look at anything. Like, one, we should probably strengthen the filter a little bit. You can even have a checkbox on your filter. I've seen some people do that. Like, yes, I will watch the video on the next page, or yes, I will watch, whatever on the next page, and stuff like that, to try to induce that, right? And get them committing not only to you and to pursuing your content, but again, it just helps you close that deal so much more. I've literally had a prospect I sold last year after my last summit. It was a $45,000 deal. It's turned into a $60,000 deal. And the person it was a 2-call close. I mean, they were very, very, very interested. They'd spent, he said, nearly 2 hours watching some of my content before the initial sales call. He was, obviously very much leaning into me as being the person that he was impressed. He was so impressed that he was basically wanting in. It was just a matter of getting to the pointy end of the conversation, as you say, right, with the price and all those things. And we were able to find a deal and push him into doing a pretty good sized deal there. Literally had never heard of me, days before, so.
It is funny you have that conversation and they get on the phone and you bring up an idea or a concept that was in one of your videos and they go, oh yeah. And then they start to teach it back to you and you go, right, this person's someone who I want to work with. They put in the work, they do it. Then you get other people and they go, yeah, I didn't watch them in any of the videos. So how much is it going to be?
Yeah. I can't stand that. Yeah. I just need a number. I had a guy say that to me once. I'm like, if you're like, buddy, if you just need a number, we're not a fit, like, and I get it. Right. Like, but I don't know. To me, that with a number without context is just not a good client,
So what are your rates? And you say anywhere between $100 and $100,000. Where do you want to start?
Yeah. So anyway, the big takeaway here for everybody is really putting together some of that pre-call materials and starting to Netflix your prospects. That's a really big factor. This is Holly Chantel. She was a business coach I worked with. She said she signed a cold prospect from her site. The prospect had spent hours going through the material on her post-booking page. And here's the key phrase at the bottom. She was ready to go before we even got on the phone.
Yeah.
Now, they're not all going to be that way. And depending on what you sell, you might have a little longer sales cycle. She works with more, I would say, solopreneurs. So it depends on your sales cycle a little bit and who you're targeting. But you, at a minimum, want that the person who's reaching out to you to be heavily leaning towards you as that solution for them. And in some cases, ready to go before they even got on the call. So
we call them VIPs, not very important people, but very interested prospects.
There you go.
They can afford you. It's a go.
Yep. It's a go. You can tell right away, like that first call, they're pretty much in right away, like you could feel the energy, Yeah. So then you can help create that with some of this, what I'm talking with you here, which dramatically shortens the sales cycle, increases the close rate and all those things. So how are we doing on time, buddy? We got a little bit longer to go.
I haven't been checking, but yeah, I think we're all right.
All right. So let's talk about generating some traffic to this and some use cases, and then we'll wrap this up. So some of you might be doing joint ventures on here. So a joint venture is basically been my number one way to grow over the years, has been, collaborating with other smarty pants people like James and others who think I'm cool and promote me to their audience. So some of you might be doing joint ventures. That's certainly a way to.
I just typed into the chat. JV.
Yes. JV. And I did this last time. It was surprising how few people are doing this strategy. I was shocked. I mean, decent group on there. I figured we'd get, a few JVs in the chat. Had a couple, but really, not a lot of people using this strategy. I don't know what your experience is, but
if I have a choice of spending 10 hours to say sign one big ticket client or 10 hours signing a JV partner, I know where I would be better off spending that 10 hours.
Yeah.
That one partner might lead to 10, 20, 50 of those other ones. And if you've got an application funnel, you can also vet them, pre-qualify them.
Well, that's what I do. So, I mean, so for example, like I have a JV deal coming up and we just agree to promote each other's stuff. There's no money exchanging hands or anything like this. Right. So I have a partner, he's got a big audience. I have a decent audience. We send people to each other's stuff because we believe in each other's stuff, right? So basically, he's going to email to an opt-in page. It's going to have a lead magnet on it, like a white paper or a guide. On the post registration page or the post thank you page, the post opt-in page will be my pre-sales presentation and my filter and my system that I just showed you. So he's going to send probably 300 to 400 at a minimum people into this with one or two mailings, and about 3% of people or so of that. So I'm guessing I'm probably going to get maybe 10 to 12 applications. Not all are going to be great, but the system's already built, just throwing through. And, there's going to be a percentage of people that want to talk right away. I'd say maybe 12 people might book a call with me out of that. And I would say maybe 3 or 4 of those might be good, decent qualified leads, or, decent to talk. And then I'll probably cancel the others or kindly cancel the others.
The mistake that most people make is they go into a joint venture and they say, hey, can you sell my stuff? Can you tell people how good I am? Can you tell your clients to book a call with me? And I get people reach out, like, can you sell this thing that I've got to your audience? And I like say, and we've done this before, John. I like say, hey, give me something for free. So you gave me your webinar mastery, something, can't remember what it was. And then everybody goes, great. I got a playbook. I got an action guide. I got a rule book. And the only people who are going to do it are people who are interested in the outcome or the topic.
Yeah.
And then we've got the presentation and on we go.
Yeah. So this one does really well. Maybe you want to send this out, James. This is some people love this. And so this gets very high opt-ins. And then I present the application system behind it. Right. So,
yeah,
I mean, I could have partners just literally mail right to this bad boy, and they go right through this system. Happens without me even being at my computer. I like that kind of setup. I'm getting lazier the longer I do this. I don't know about you, but
no, it's good. And then what happens is you've got you end up, have an exit pop on your website promoting that ebook. And some people are not going to want to book a call, but they're going to go for that ebook. And then when they get the ebook, then they suddenly think twice and go, oh, maybe I should try and book a call. And there's a video and they watch it. And there's all sorts of different ways to bring people into your world. Lots of paths we can take them down, like running paid ads. Yeah.
So paid ads is another one. Depending on where you're at, I know, James, you run a fair amount of this. I don't know what you recommend to your people, so I don't want to misspeak, but I can give my opinion if you want. I think that it's great. It's great for people who have decently proven offers and messages and hooks and stuff, but be prepared to blow through a good amount of cash if you're unproven and testing this way. But it is a source of traffic that you can look at. I've used
measurable. That's the important bit.
Yeah.
So if you, for example, so John was saying that out of every 12 meetings he gets booked, he might have 3 people that turn into a client. So he can turn around and say, well, how much of the client income am I willing to dedicate to the booking of the meeting? And then he turns around and says, oh, okay, well, I'm willing to allocate $300 to the booking of a meeting. Then he can say, well, how many leads am I going to need to get to be able to book a meeting? Well, I'm going to need 100 leads to book a meeting. So therefore I can spend $3 on a lead, but he's not going to know that until he's got something proven.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, that is another use for it. I mean, Facebook, Google, LinkedIn's really expensive, but quality. You can send people to some kind of an opt-in form for either the presentation itself could be positioned as a case example or case study. You can use the presentation itself as an opt-in lead, or it could be behind the lead magnet that we shared earlier, right? You can send people through this kind of a system as well. Now, this is the yes path. I don't want to get too complicated. There is a no path. Like not every, if 3% book, there's 97 people out of 100 that are saying, nah, I'm not ready for that, So they go on the list, right? And there's a basic drip sequence and also what I call a house list strategy, right? For engaging those people maybe down the road too, right? So, but that's another one. Website traffic is one of my bread and butters. I don't get a ton of traffic, but it's very, very targeted. And I do get people every week who go through my website and want to look at working together. So basically people search on Google, they come to a homepage, they can book a call from the homepage and go through this same system, just like I do, on my website here. So basically people come to this homepage, they Google webinar, whatever expert, they come to the homepage, go through the funnel, fill in the information. Now there's what I found, James, with Google, and I know this isn't a strategy everybody can use because I'm very niche-y here, but God, I mean, some really good companies go through Google, they're like legitimate, it depends on who you're selling to. If you're selling to solos, maybe that's a little less, but I get $5 million companies all the time, plus that go through Google and want to talk, about working together, and they have pretty good sized budgets, so
it's the common thing. So it's the middle manager, senior middle manager, their director of marketing and sales with widget company 42, and the boss says, hey, you got to get on top of this webinar stuff, Rolf. And Rolf, what does he do? He's not, he's not putting in all the right keywords in Facebook for your ad to appear.
No.
He goes onto Google and he just starts to type in keywords.
Yeah. So, I mean, he might go into Google here, and type in webinar coach or something like that. Maybe they got a webinar that sucks or something like this. And
You just do this every day, don't you? You just like to type in webinar.
I do. That's all the search traffic. Yeah. So, I'm ranked number one, so I mean, and like webinar expert and those kind of things, so anybody in the world puts this in. I mean, I have Google ads running on long tail keywords. I have Google Display Network ads for anybody who comes to my website, and organic searches, I got, so it's not a huge, these aren't like massive search terms, but they're very long tail and buyer intent, and so they do send me a nice, consistent flow of passive leads that just zing my phone. And all of a sudden I got leads, from someone who went through the system that I'm sharing with you here. So,
and out of the case studies that Jon's just gone through, it is a good order. I mean, when you start out, a really good cheap way to do this sort of stuff is to partner with someone else so you can leverage their list. Then once you've got some data, it's actually easier than SEO to spend some money. Even though you're spending money, you get some quick results. You can measure and you can monitor. SEO is a longer term game, but once you get it right, it's fantastic because then you're not putting money out and it's just coming in consistently.
It is. It's a blessing for sure, but not a quick thing or easy thing for some people. Really have a hard time using it because it's just it's not easily searchable, right? Or they're in a competitive term.
Yeah.
So cool. And then, so for people on here, which is a lot of people I know from experience, a lot of their ideal clients are CEOs or small to medium-sized business owners. One of the things I've seen work well for generating leads based on my own experience and for clients is using some kind of an outbound strategy. So that could be, cold email, right? You can send cold emails to a targeted prospect list, and have a link to your calendar page, which then goes through this filter system. LinkedIn Inmail, is something I've used more this year to generate meetings with prospects. And so when someone's interested, I'll give them my calendar page with the video on it. They'll go through the process, Facebook, I don't use as much in this case for this kind of thing.
I've seen you use it, whether you know it or not. I actually have, whether it's a priority or not. Yeah, because I've seen you. Facebook, yeah, because you write long form posts where you solve a problem. Now, this is a really popular strategy that I see happening right now is that someone might do a long form post on Facebook where they solve a problem, or they might just have a short one which says, who thinks this, yes or no? And and I'll send you my free video training on how to do a great webinar. Yep. And you see this all the time. Who says this? And people go, yeah. And then Jon could, whether he's doing it or not, I don't know, then reaches out on DM and says, hey, well, here's my 18-minute video. Check it out. And it's going to resolve that problem. But I see that a lot at this point in time, at this moment.
Yeah. Yep. So you can do that. I've done that strategy before. We get like 300 comments on a post or whatever occasionally. I haven't been doing it as much lately. Facebook, I don't know why. I don't know. Just gotten busy. I've been doing LinkedIn more. And that's generated a lot of leads, doing it that way.
The thing about LinkedIn, you can pick like the absolute client type. You can go like, size of company, title of the decision maker, and you can go really granular that way.
Yeah. And Inmail has been working really well, which is LinkedIn's version of basically like a cold email ad, basically, So anyway, this is a gal I worked with, was doing a lot of LinkedIn advertising or LinkedIn lead gen. We added, so we bulked up her pre-sales process, and her sales rate nearly tripled last year, all of 2020, by improving that. So basically, to recap, and then we'll wrap it up, and you can do your sign off here. It's not always what you sell, but how you sell it, right? We talked about the importance of that, and it just makes sense, right? Like, I mean, what's the biggest influence on somebody before they become a client, and whether they decide to pay you more or less, or all those things? It's the sales experience. But not only that, but the research shows that it also creates like this enamorment with your brand, and in this. I mean, people are like talking about your company before you even finish the result with them, and things like that. I don't know if you've experienced that, James, but
yeah. And even before that meeting, they're like sharing the video and we should do something like this. They're training each other on your methodology before you've even chatted.
So like there's a lot of people teaching B2B, but you have a very unique brand and style and way you do it, that sets you apart, from others. And so how you sell is vastly different. Taki Moore, I don't know if you know Taki, he's very unique
summit too.
Very unique imagery, right? Like he's big on like doing imagery or drawing style presentations. He's selling differently, right? He's a different character. He doesn't fit the classic mold, of how he sells, right? And so that for damn sure this helps him sell much more effectively because he's unique, he's different. The biggest challenge that we face to making more sales today is we need to improve our buyers' self-confidence. These poor buyers are getting hammered over the head with tons of messages and tons of this and that online. They don't know who to believe, who to trust. You want to be that sage, that guide for them, right? And so how do you get them to see you as more than just a vendor or another me too, right? A lot of that has to do with how you sell. And the best way to improve that self-confidence is to optimize your pre-sales process. And then we did a visual walkthrough of some of the main pieces of the process and why it works, some success stories and use cases and those kind of things. So hopefully this was helpful to those on your summits, and tried to not make it it's hard to do these because some people are very, maybe a solo consultant and they're just like, wow, this seems like a lot. Or other people are a little more advanced. They're like, well, no duh. But hopefully I just from sharing this in both advanced groups and beginner groups, almost everybody gets something good out of it. If you're a solo and you're starting, the big takeaway for you is you need to be pre-selling yourself more before your sales calls. And if you're a little more advanced, you can look at some of the structures here to that we shared towards the end here to maybe throw some other pieces into your customer journey.
So for me, there's always big picture stuff. So sometimes I speak to Jon and he'll talk about the way people think, some of these big picture ideas. And I'm like, oh, that's terrific. How can I embed that into my training? It's also really nice when someone lays out a map. I love a map. If you want to get to A to B and you don't have a map, you struggle. Someone lays something out in front of you, you got a map, a plan or a process. Systems equals sanity. In my world, I always look at it and I think, how can I do it a little bit better? And I've already got some ideas about ways that I'm going to do, the ways that I'm going to do things that are better. Now I'm going to put you on the spot, Jon. And I'm going to say, can we make it possible for anyone who's watching this to get hold of that wonderful document that you showed on the screen a little bit earlier? What was it called? The 27 something or others?
Oh, yeah. Oops, let me go back on here. So is that the guide? Yeah, for sure.
I want to make sure that everyone on this call can get access to that particular guide, because I know when they get access to that particular guide, they're going to be able to get to see your 16-minute video straight afterwards. They're going to enter your world and they're going to experience what it's really like.
Yeah. Yep. So you can go to, the guide is certainly on the website, or you can go to jonschumacher.com/conversion. That is the guide
beneath the video. Yeah.
You put the link in the video. Yep. Feel free to have at it. This is a very popular guide. It's very detailed. I tend to be kind of a detailed person. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's bad when selling, but some people like that. And so, yeah, there's a lot of detail here that even if you're more advanced, you're going to get a lot of good stuff out of. I think I shared this with my colleague, David Newman. He said he took some of the tips out of this and he went from, I think he was doing about 60 grand a webinar to 110,000 a webinar. Now he credits me with some of the things here in this, but obviously, there are other factors too, but basically what I'm saying is there's a lot of good stuff in here. So yeah, it's jonschumacher.com/conversion. If you want to know more about me, if you want to book a call with me ever, you can go to workwithjon.co, or just Google Jon Schumacher and come to the website and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about here during this presentation.
Yeah, this is some layers about what Jon could do. So at the top level, if you want to do a webinar, get this document, book a call with him. Absolutely, that's great. As you move down the different things that Jon does, how he does it, how he helps his clients, you'll be able to see things like the example that we talked about today, which is not as demanding as putting on a full-blown webinar. But gee, it's a powerful first step. And And it's a great part of a larger infrastructure when you can get someone like Jon to help you build something like that. Also, thank you, Jon, so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. You're welcome. Hope everybody got a lot out of this, and I appreciate you having me.